Do I need to do more la la las?
Oh, maybe.
Up and down again. La 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 la.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello and welcome to episode 69 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG Fan Music Podcast. I'm your host and RPG Fan Editor-in-Chief, Mike Salbato, and I have three panelists with me today, and we're really excited about this episode because this is a topic that we've been planning on doing for quite a while now. And I feel like I say that a lot, but that's because we have a lot of topics that we've been trying to do for quite a while. So the first person joining me today is Hilary Andreff.
Hello, everyone.
And along with me and Hilary, we have Alana Hagues.
You were almost forgetting who I was then. Who were like, who else is here? But hey, everyone.
I would never forget any of you. And then that other chuckle you just heard is Zach Wilkerson.
Why, hello there.
He is in
Hello
fact
there.
an entire person, not just a chuckle, but
I do chuckle a lot, so it makes sense.
you do, well, only when you're around, interesting and amusing people, right?
That's true.
So what is our interesting and exciting topic for today?
Our interesting and exciting topic is probably clear from the title of the episode, although, again, as usual, we don't actually have the official title, but somewhere in there it will mention Final Fantasy XIV. Not that we haven't featured a handful of Final Fantasy XIV songs, often throughout the years on Rhythm, but, it's kind of the case like we had with the Nier episode, where there was a lot of movement in Final Fantasy XIV music in the several years when we didn't have Rhythm Encounter episodes. So we thought we pretty much needed at least one episode to kind of catch up on a lot of the stuff we missed.
Right, we've got at least two expansions. Maybe?
Two expansions since then. So we thought it would be a good time to do some 14 things. And we have, actually, I don't even know how many people on staff we have now that play 14. Like, it's just, it's more and more like every week.
It's got to be like half.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot now. It used to be, 4 or 5, 6 people that played regularly. And now every once in a while, there's another staff member who's like, hey, I just started this game.
And then 2 weeks later, hey, I'm level 60.
But see, even then, if we limited it to just the people that really push and promote this game, it's still even more than us. Caitlin does all the reviews now. Mm-hmm. Anyway, yeah, there's a lot.
All right, I gotta come.
Solosi feels that way, but he plays it in weird spurts.
Yeah.
He'll be like, I just played 7 straight days in a row without sleeping, and now I'm caught up again, so I'll play again in a year.
And then there's me,
which is impressive. I'm not making fun of him.
And then there's me, who I don't think I count as a full promoter because I have just been in Heavensward forever because I haven't had enough time to play.
You do count still.
You do count.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a lot of passion for other things about the game, and that still absolutely counts. So
And you're still in the best expansion, so it's more fun for you.
Oh, there we go.
In my not very humble opinion.
Ooh, it's not that spicy of a take. It's my second favorite.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not a spicy take at all. They're the two best expansions are almost level, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, at the top of the list is all the quests between 2.0 and 2.5.
Hey, I did those.
They were miserable.
And you did the revised ones as well, didn't you? So
No.
I did.
No,
and
no.
they were
Oh.
still... Did I?
No, she didn't.
No.
Oh,
you didn't.
shoot. Right. It was right before.
Right after Hillary got past all that part is when
They're
they
like, hey,
when they
just
updated
kidding.
it.
We're condensing
When
this.
they cut out a third of them. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I guess I'm just saying, so many people have been so excited about Shadowbringers. We'll get to that.
Oh yeah.
We will get to that soon, actually. So let's get into some music here. So our first song here actually is one of yours, Alana. So what are we starting with?
It is, yeah. So we're starting with a piece of music from Stormblood. We are starting with Beyond the Wall, which is the day theme for the Fringes. And this is composed by Masayoshi Soken.
Good choice. Not one of my expected choices. I'm actually surprised you picked it, but I like it. So after Beyond the Wall, I brought a song from later on in Shadowbringers called Full Fathom 5, which is one of many Shakespearean references in Shadowbringers that I'm sure Hilary is going to really want to talk about. So yeah,
Yes.
Let's go listen to Beyond the Wall and Full Fathom 5.
Great. So I think Stormblood is probably one of the lesser represented expansions in terms of music, but I think it has a lot of really great songs, and there are a lot of really obvious strong choices that use revolutions as a backdrop, and there's one even today that we'll talk about that uses that in some context. But Beyond the Wall is probably a bit more of a personal pick on my part. I don't like to give too much context or background, but I think it might be worth it in this case. Because I took such a long break between 14, so I unsubbed in 2017 and came back in 2021, there was a 4-year gap between me coming to a new area in the MMO. So, like, the first new area I got to after 4 years was the Fringes, or Castromorians. And I remember, like, it's not the first new piece of music I heard, because obviously I had, like, all of the 3.3, 4, and 5 content to do. But I remember very specifically, this was the very first, like, time I came into an area where the music really hit me, and it was like coming out of Castromorians and having the plucking of the guitar and the viola just slowly coming in. I remember standing at the gate of Castromorian, right, looking out to the Fringes with the trees, and like it's like Gridania and Thanalan are like bleeding out slightly into Alamigo, or the Alamigan territories, and like drying up. So you've got like this very empty, war-torn area with this extremely sad plucked guitar and this very mournful viola sound. And I had to like, I do this frequently anyway when I play games with like open worlds and things like that, but I just had to stop and kind of soak it in. So that's kind of like why I picked it, because I think it's a very important song for me in terms of like my 14 journey. But I think it's also a really beautiful, really solemn song as well. I think in general, and I think a lot of today's picks, so this is quite nice that it's first, is a lot of the picks we've got today and a lot of the music in 14 does mournful and reflective very well. Those are my like favorite pieces of music consistently throughout these expansions. And I think that especially the overworld themes capture history really well. So like I think this mix of like guitar and viola really capture a real sense of serenity but also somberness. And when you like walk through the Fringes, because it's very lush, very green, very brown, very autumnal, and then you come out into this like drier area with desert, and you've got like pieces of Magitech shattered, you've got like craters where there was a war, you've got this like leftover remnants of some of the Alamigan areas, because really you've only got Ralgal's Reach and a couple of like settlements. You can tell that like this is kind of the last stand for the Alamegans, and you can tell that with the music as well. I just think that especially around the middle of the song where the piano comes in, it just adds on that reflection and that like sense of like you're in a brand new area, and you suddenly like you've already got like a sense of Alamigo anyway because of the 2.0 patches and the story around there, but then you've got this like moment where you get the chance to reflect as you hear the piano play, and you're just standing out probably in the desert area at this point, like, oh my goodness, like all of this stuff you've been hearing about for patches and patches on end, you're now in there, and you now have that full impact of it tied together with the music. And it was just like mixed in with like my history with the game and like everything that I've like been through with it. It was a real moment of like, oh my goodness, like it felt like I'd reached somewhere very pivotal. And I think like unfortunately like the Alamigan areas I think aren't as impactful as like a lot of the Doman areas, certainly in Stormblood. But like this piece of music just makes me feel very peaceful in a very like solemn way, which a lot of my favorite music tends to be like, it's very like, oh my gosh, like you just have to kind of take it in and really slow down, but not in a way that's like relaxing, but in a way that I'm like, okay, pace yourself a little bit and like slow down.
I think you use the term reflect. I think that's a really good one.
Yeah. And I think as well, like the way that, in particular, if you listen to it off the album, like the song ends pretty suddenly with just like one real strum of the guitar. And it's like, that's the moment where you're like, this is what I need to do. Like you suddenly, not that you don't ever get the impact of what Alamigo's been through until that point, but that last strum on the song is like everything coming together and like, okay, I've done my thinking, now I need to do something. And then the song obviously loops. So,
and I think that's a really good point because you've been hearing about Alamigo. It factors in as early as, some of the ARR patches pretty prominently. And then you finally, it's kind of like you're finally getting there, you're processing it. And then Stormblood is where you have to act.
Mm-hmm.
I think one kind of little Easter eggy thing that I noticed about it that I really want to mention quickly, if that's okay, is that there are some chords, like as the song kind of swells to its loudest point under the viola, that sound like the accompaniment in the song Dark World from FF6, just sort of like a doot, 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 doot. And I thought that was a really cool throwback.
Wow. I didn't catch that at all.
I didn't, but it absolutely makes sense given some of the other musical references in Stormblood. So, yeah, I'm not surprised at that at all. That's a really good spot.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of everyone, Magitech armor.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here looking at my notes, and you guys both said all the smart things I was going to say. You're killing me.
No, that's always the risk, huh?
Right, it is. But yeah, I think that maybe you said this before recording, Mike, or I don't know if it was during recording. Like, it's not a track that I would have expected, and and I feel like it's been like over a year since I've really spent a lot of time in that area, and just the way that it captures sort of like the calm openness of the area, and like sort of the calmness of the area, but also sort of the somberness of the situation of Alamigo. Is amazing. But yeah, I like the way they flip between piano and viola, and like the guitar almost becomes like more rhythmic, so it still has like a little bit of a press and a push, like Alana was talking about. But yeah, you stole all my notes, Alana. How dare you?
I have some notes that maybe we didn't cover yet, although it was a little bit expanding on what Alana said about Stormblood. Although I was going to comment on Stormblood in general. Like I feel like I don't remember how people felt about Stormblood when it came out. I know after Shadowbringers, Stormblood, I think, got pushed down on the list in terms of like people's favorite things. I still like Stormblood, not as much as the others, but it's still weird. Like, I guess in my mind, when you say like, well, this is maybe the weakest part of 14, it's still better than a lot of other games I've played.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't really need to rehash that, which is funny because I wrote out half my notes about that topic. What I did like, though, what you said, Alana, I never even considered it because I like the feel of this song and kind of the sort of relaxing and I forgot what you said, not tension, but it's interesting. It's interesting the emotions that go through this song. But I especially like how it sounds in the first part of the area because the first part of the zone, most of the time your time is spent in the forest area, and I don't think it really sunk in until you commented on that, how this part of the area is Gridania, the forest, like blending into the other areas. Because I like it. I like that they have different parts of the fringes, have different feels and stuff, but it didn't really occur to me. I don't think you see enough of that in RPGs and like zones, like transitions in general, because usually it's like, okay, I'm in the forest, and then you walk through like, a gate or something, and now it's just instantly desert. I like that you're in this new area, but it's like it's more of a natural transition between the forest and the areas around it.
Realistic ecosystem.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
Yeah, one of the only other areas I can think of that in is like weirdly like, well, I guess like the hub areas work, but like Lakeland and the Crystarium, where you've got like purple trees inside the Crystarium, it's like, oh yeah, you can tell this is where this is. But that's really the only other area I can think of, especially because like Shadowbringers areas are a lot more segmented than the rest of the game. But yeah, I thought that was a really cool thing about I think it's like maybe one of the only areas I can think of in the whole of 14 actually that really does that. So I think it's lovely.
I think the last really quick thing to mention, and we'll get into this with the next song as well, but I'm just, every time I hear kind of a map area theme from 14, I'm just kind of in awe of the simple melodies that just work so well because they're evocative enough, but they're also, they're a good enough accompaniment for your journey because you spend a lot of time in these zones. So it's kind of amazing how they evoke the proper amount of emotion while still being able to be background while you're spending a lot of time in these places, maybe leveling.
Right.
Yeah. It's just really impressive.
And okay, actually, I will say one more thing about Stormblood in that sense, because you're talking about areas and traversing. I think that's one thing that Stormblood did improve actually upon Heavensward is the design of those areas and maybe some of the songs. Like, I don't mind any of this music in Heavensward, but just the zone and all the open world field music in Stormblood, like every single one I really, really like. Like, I was often like would stop and like, wow, this is another great one. On top of the fact that the zones, I think, were just better designed for flying, and they didn't feel like so gated. So I think I had a better time getting around some of them, especially compared to things like Sea of Clouds.
Oh, God, yeah. Sea of Clouds, yeah. I mean, unlocking the flight is a totally different story in Stormblood. I think some of those areas are pretty terrible to do that. Girabania, is it the locks?
The locks, that's what I was thinking of.
The locks, yeah, it's awful. I made someone here, like, ferry me around just to unlock all of it.
Right?
So.
That's the way to do it sometimes.
Mm-hmm. It is the way to do it, yeah. But, like, yeah, I think the Heavensward areas, not to go back to that, but, like, I don't think any of the overworld themes quite match up to the Dravania music. Like Painted Skies and Painted Foothills are like two of my favorite songs still of all time on these music. But yeah, 14 has incredible overworld music, and Mike, you have basically picked maybe my favorite area music. So
it is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, I did?
You did, yeah. It's a transition, Mike.
She's giving you a transition.
Take it.
Beautiful. I am taking it.
Excellent.
Yes. All right, so full Fathom 5. I'm probably the one here who got the references the least, but I'll let all of you talk about the literary references to this title. But I had a bit of a hard time picking this one because this song, and there's a couple songs around it on the album and of course in the game that I was going back and forth on so much. Like, so full Fathom 5 is the daytime theme for The Tempest, which is the final zone in Shadowbringers, and then there's the nighttime theme, which is also really, really beautiful. And I wish I had some like really like poignant reason why I picked this over the other, but I don't. It was really like I had to pick one of these two. But I'd really like, outside of this song by itself, I do really like how the instrumentation and the melody of this song influences the nighttime theme, but also the dungeon theme that comes up later. Like, it's all so cohesive, everything in this area musically, and it's just gorgeous. I'm guessing that dungeon theme will come up in a future episode too.
I think so, yeah. I mean, it comes up in another song we've got today, so you know.
True.
Yeah, but Mortal Instance is amazing. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, I think that I mean, not to get into like too many like sort of direct story references for those of you who haven't finished Shadowbringers yet. But I like the way this song sort of feels in reference to like what you're around. So like the guitar, and I had to look this up. It looks like they're playing a vibraphone in the background, sort of like so like the guitar is like playing around with like a vibraphone sort of in the background. And like it feels like it's building to something in this daytime version, like over and over again. Like I feel like it kind of consistently, like the vibraphone and the guitar, like are feeling like they're building towards something, and then it can't quite get there. Then it resolves before it goes over the top, and then it does it over and over and over again. And I think that is, to me, given the events that happen in that space, really interesting. You know, based on the things we learn, and also the things we learn sort of throughout the rest of Shadowbringers up through 5.3, makes the song really interesting. But and I think like sort of the mournful quality that you were talking about, I think is really interesting as well.
Ooh, that's good insight. I like that. See, yeah. I'm glad I let you go.
It's really cool to see that, because musically, kind of using that delayed resolution or, you know, incomplete resolution is a really good way to tie music and story together, and it's great to see that used so effectively in a final area. I have some notes about that as well. And I think one other thing I said, just kind of the way that resolution kind of sort of happens but doesn't, it kind of feels like you're going around to all these places, going around to all these corners, seeing what's around the corners. It's like you're trying to discover something important in this underwater world.
That is very astute for someone who hasn't played this area.
Yeah, I'm really impressed about that, actually.
So, well, I guess that just shows how well conveyed that is musically.
Exactly.
Yeah, it does.
But another little thing, okay, I noticed some finger snap sounds in the background, and I got curious, so I kind of looked into that a little bit without trying to spoil myself, and I didn't. I learned that it is sort of probably a callback to Emmett Selk.
Yes.
Correct.
That's all I found out, so don't worry.
Yeah.
But that's also, again, a really cool way to take kind of a non-musical sound and tie it directly back into the story.
Yep.
Put it in the music.
That's something I wish I had realized before today, so that was a fun little thing that I learned, so thank you.
Are we going Shakespeare yet, or?
I want to.
Do you want to?
I mean, yeah, whoever. I know Hilary has thoughts.
Go for it.
Okay, I'll start us off with a quick explanation. So the song's title is Full Fathom 5, which is the beginning of a song that shows up in the play The Tempest. And basically the context of the song is that Ariel, the air spirit, is leading some shipwrecked guys around the island, one of whom is concerned about the fate of his father after the shipwrecked on the shore. And he isn't quite sure what happened, and Ariel kind of actually shows him that his dad was drowned, and basically the song says, full fathom 5, thy father lies, talks about his bones being coral, his eyes being pearls, and that, he is just transformed into something rich and strange under the water. So it kind of talks about really kind of a transformation after death.
That's right. Yeah. And I think as well, like, one thing I picked up from the, like, I guess it's not really, it's a song, isn't it? In that song, like, it does 4 bell chimes, or 4 ding dongs, I guess. It does 2. But in the song itself, in Shadowbringers, about 1:03, and it happens throughout the song, and it happens throughout every rendition. When the vibraphone comes in, it does 4 beats, exactly the same. So it does do, 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 like that, like 4 rings, and I'm like, oh, that's very good. But yeah, like, I think it's very, very interesting, because, like, to me, like, the song, I think it's interesting that it's paired with the 2 overworld themes here. We've both kind of picked, like, 2 songs that use a guitar that's being plucked in a slower way. Mm-hmm. Like, every note is drawn out. And I think with this one in particular, while with Beyond the Wall, you've got, like, history, reflection, and you've got that here as well. But, like, given the context again of the situation, like, you're going to the bottom of the ocean. It feels like I'm sinking as I'm listening to this. Mm-hmm. To me, like, it's very drawn out.
Looking back up at to the surface or something.
It's like, the thing is like, Neath Dark Waters, which is, we've been calling them day and night themes. Interestingly, they're not really day and night themes here. It's the theme for the Tempest and the theme for the city Amarot. So,
oh shoot, you're right.
Yeah, so the theme for the Tempest, I think Amarot is like, after like a storm, you just like, it's like the total calm after the storm, like the absolute silence. Whereas this is like just in the aftermath, so it's still going. Like, there's still some kind of swirl of emotion or swirl of, I don't know, any kind of water. I'm just trying to make a really smart analogy and not sounding really smart, but like, it's like, it's as the storm is slowing down and your body is like floating to the bottom of the ocean. It's heavy and sad, and it's not too slow. And I think, like, again, like, a lot of the somber music here that we've picked out is like, it's slow enough to just feel like, it's not like sad piano music. So it does like something very different with music to make you feel those kinds of emotions. And at this point as well, like, because it's the very last area you go to in Shadowbringers, like, at this point, you are at a point of hopelessness. Like, so much has happened. Like, you've tried to do all of this stuff and it's backfired. You've lost a friend because they've been taken away. You're trying to resolve everything because you've got to go and confront somebody. And also, you're in a bad situation as well, like your character in the vaguest sense. So it's like, there's just all of this coming together. It's like this perfect storm of emotion is like swelling up, and this is like that song like building up to it. And like Zach was saying, like, it's building up, but it can't quite get there. It will get there as it carries throughout the rest of the expansion. But yeah, it's a really incredible piece, and the Tempest is like one of my favorite areas. It's probably maybe my favorite area. Maybe. I like sad water places. That's just me. So.
No, I'm with you. I wrote too many notes about this, so I'm gonna condense it a little bit. But I think one of the things I like about it, and this is both the game and the music, but as far as like final areas in RPGs, like it on the surface, is that a pun? It's almost a pun. It looks like the least like what you expect, like Mordona, and especially Azys Law. Like, Azys Law is like classic, like crazy, like final area in an RPG, and this one is just, it's so, if you put aside the emotional weight and everything you talked about for a minute, like, it's just calm and it's peaceful. And of course, you can't really put that aside when you're playing. So it's calm and peaceful mixed with like all this stuff
Tension?
that you're like having to bear. But it's just so fascinating to me as like a final area, because I was not expecting it to be something like this. It's just a really interesting setting for how it's used.
And you're not alone in that. I noticed, like, just kind of looking at people commenting on the music, at least like probably 75% of them were like, I wasn't expecting this, but I'm really feeling it because of what happened in the game, or I didn't like this because it's not a crazy epic area, but then I went back after I finished the game and I really like this music now.
It is a crazy epic area, just in a different way than you usually expect.
It is.
I mean, especially the southern area is pretty crazy and epic.
Yeah.
One like technical musical thing that I really like about Full Fathom 5 is how it starts with very sparse instrumentation, and then the instrument group that actually kind of builds the tension and kind of builds the movement in the song is actually the strings, which is interesting because that's, at least in 14 music, that's kind of like a less chosen path. Usually the strings are kind of helping with the melody, but in this one they're doing that work to kind of create movement in the song. They're kind of under some of the other instruments for at least part of it, which I thought was neat.
Boy, we got a lot of conversation out of those two, didn't we?
Seems like it's going to be a theme for today.
I know. We got 6 more. All right. Are we good? Do we want to go on to the next block here, or how's everyone feeling?
I'm ready.
I'm excited.
I too am ready.
All right. So the next song or next block is actually both of Hilary's picks.
I got my own block.
I usually try to mix them up. Like I always try to, like, when I put these things together, try to put songs that work together. Like those two, I was really happy worked really well together. And I couldn't figure out what to pair your stuff with outside of each other. I like these two together. So yes, you get your own block.
We'll call it the arranged version block, because my 2 picks are basically arrangements.
Yeah.
That I really, really like. Should I introduce them both now?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So the first one is the piano collection version of Crimson Sunset, which is also from Stormblood, and then the Pulse EDM version of What Angel Wakes Me from Shadowbringers.
Oh yeah, this is very exciting
because we can't get enough of quote song titles. So
yeah,
there's that one too.
Yep.
Yep.
All right, so we're gonna go listen to Crimson Sunset and the Pulse remix of What Angel Wakes Me.
wanted quiet.
So my first pick was Crimson Sunset, and there is actually a little bit of confusion, especially with some of the piano arrangements and arranged versions of this song. There's Crimson Sunset and there's Crimson Sunrise.
Yeah, I forgot which album it was. Like sometime last year we saw something and it was listed one way somewhere, but it was actually the other song.
It was this version, actually.
Okay.
It was VGMDV versus some other sources. But yes, I chose this song for a few reasons. Anyone not familiar with Keiko on the piano and her continuing work arranging 14 music for piano should be acquainted with her really fast.
Yes.
She has been doing these arrangements for a while. She's been at fan fests. She's fantastic. She wears great, big, lovely dresses while she's performing. Just like everything. She's great. And the other reason I picked it is because it's just a really good and well-realized duet. You know, the two musicians are playing off of each other. The parts mesh really well throughout the song. They use the two instruments to kind of convey this area in a bunch of different moods. There's a fun, like, kind of jazzy section near the middle of this piano arrangement that I love, especially if you're watching the video, because you see the pianist kind of look at the other musician, who is a great shakuhachi or bamboo flute player, and just kind of like, okay, are you ready? And you're almost expecting her to kind of start wailing on this bamboo flute. And she kind of does. She gets really into it. It's fantastic. So it's a great example of a duet, and I think it adds something to the original, which is really important when I'm listening to like arranged music. And I always like the combination of something like the piano or strings with traditional Asian instruments. So that's another reason why I picked this.
I think it's interesting because it's not actually, in my head, it was listed as like a bonus track, because sometimes these albums have extra tracks on the disc that aren't really listed. This is not one of those, but like to me, it does feel like that because it's the only duet on here, I think.
You get bonus shakuhachi.
Yeah, pretty much. The whole album is just straight up piano, and it's great. And like this one caught me by surprise. By the way, the video, the live performance of this that Hilary mentioned, we are including a link to that video in the notes, so you don't have to go find it yourself, because it's really, really fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it really adds to it, I think.
Yeah,
I'm gonna jump in if that's all right,
go for it.
because I think watching the video is really good. Like the original, so people know if they haven't played Stormblood, this is the night theme for Kugane, which is like your hub base for a lot of Stormblood. It's where the market board is, so you'll be spending a lot of time there, or you would have spent more time there had you been playing when Stormblood was around. And like the night theme for Stormblood as well doesn't have the bamboo flute, so it uses a koto, I believe, or a similar Japanese stringed instrument. So I think the bamboo flute really adds a kind of like peaceful calmness to it, and like watching the performance made me think like, oh, this would be something that I would watch if I was in Kugane, or if my Warrior of Light was in Kugane. I suppose this would be something that she would do. She would go and see it.
Yeah, like on a stage in the square or something.
Exactly. Yeah. But like the original piece of music, I don't always like to compare, but sometimes it helps me with my like interpretation. Because Hilary said like it adds to the original, and I absolutely think this adds to the original. I actually think I like this version more than the original as well, because it's really lovely. And like I've heard some of Keiko's work before, and this is like one of my favorite pieces I've heard, actually. And I really like Crimson Sunrise and Sunset as well. But yeah, the original is a lot more peaceful and mysterious. It's like, it's very calming, but it's like the kind of calming that you'd hear in one of the bathhouses, or if you were together with friends to eat food. Whereas I think this version is a little bit more reflective, and it's beautiful. But I also, again, it's something you'd go and see live, and especially like the first half, I think it's a little bit more sad, because you've got to think like Doma, the entire country or the continent of Doma, is the one that's been like captured or under Garlean rule for 25 years. At this point, or maybe a little bit more. I struggle with the timeline of 14 sometimes, but yeah, it captures that. But then you've got this shift at like 3 minutes, which is where like the jazz piece comes in and then fades into, like, it picks up even more like Keiko's piano movements, and the way that the Sujimoto, I think her name is, the bamboo flute player, she really gets into like the movement, and like the pace picks up of the song a bit, and that's like the performance element of it. Like you'd go and see that with like I don't know, some food with some friends, and they'd play it at night, and it would be like a celebration. So you've got like this reflective part, and then all of a sudden you've got like this is our culture kind of thing, like celebrating and exploding into this kind of
celebrating Domin culture.
Yeah, and it captures, like, I think because obviously this is the Crimson Sunset is a arrangement of the main theme of Stormblood, Revolutions. So I think this captures like the rousing spirit side of Revolutions, like we're proud of our culture, we're proud of our country, we want to celebrate it, and this is what this does. But it does it in a Kugane, traditional Japanese style way. So I think I've always loved like how like the purpose of music can change depending on what instruments you use and how you play it. And it like this one to me like is a lot closer to the boss theme of Stormblood, which is called Triumphant, which I almost bought on, because it's so good. But yeah, I love this. I really love how it like explodes into this like celebratory performance towards the end.
Yeah, and I love the originals too, but I think compared to this, they're a little bit more static.
Yeah, I prefer the day theme. And I guess that this interpretation also takes from the day theme as well, because the day theme is a lot more like lively, market-based, like, because that's what Kugane is. It's a port town with markets, so...
Yeah, I think it kind of pulls from both, and I think that works.
So, Zach, do you have anything left to say? Because at this point, I feel like you and I should just like take a back seat and let these two talk about all this stuff.
I actually am in agreement with you. All of my notes have been... I literally checked them off this time. It's like, nope, that was taken. Nope, that was taken. Nope, that was taken. Nope, that was taken. So no, I got nothing. It's I in all sincerity, like I think this version's great. I like the video version adds a lot, and I have nothing new to say. Great job, you two.
It's true. It's
Thank
true.
you.
Good insights as always.
So go watch it. I think that's the only thing I'll add. Like, it's so worth it.
It's definitely worth watching. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll pick up the energy even more, I guess, with my next pick, which is What Angel Wakes Me. So quick introductions. It's a boss theme.
Yes.
It's an unconventional boss theme, which I love. It's for Titania, who traditionally Queen of the Fairies in Shakespeare's Midsummer Night's Dream, and also Queen of the Fairies in 14.
And lots of other things, right?
Yes. That is a commonly used name.
Yeah.
And the song title, I don't know, unless someone else wants to take over the Shakespeare references.
You could talk about Midsummer if you want. That's all good.
So What Angel Wakes Me is... So basically in Midsummer Night's Dream, Titania, Queen of the Fairies, Oberon, King of the Fairies, they're feuding a little bit. And at one point, depending on, the production that you see, they kind of play with this a little bit, but Oberon plays a trick on Titania, makes her fall in love with Bottom, who's just this very, like, ridiculous, ordinary kind of guy from the nearby town, human. But basically, he gives him a donkey's head and, like, kind of magics Titania into being in love with him. And What Angel Wakes Me is one of the first things she says when she wakes up and sees him next to her, traditionally, which is kind of a funny reference when you're going to fight her.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to bring that up. Yeah. So I mentioned this is not exactly a traditional boss theme. It's a very, very bouncy, which I guess is fitting if you're fighting the Queen of the Fairies, which I love. Just the song, the rhythm is just fast and all up and down all over the place, which matches the lyrics. You can just kind of picture her like wailing on you while she's kind of like up and down again, la 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 la, like. And I think the Pulse, the electronic dance music version of it, really actually kind of accentuates this.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. The sweeps and the bass drops kind of emphasize that up and down, the flow of the original song, and I think it actually pairs with the rhythm. Like EDM is usually pretty heavily rhythmic, right? And that I actually I think, at least in my brain, kind of helped solidify the rhythm of the actual song in my head so I could actually time and maybe even sing along slightly better. And I know, Alana, you were saying you delved into the lyrics, so if you wanted to share a little bit about that, you could.
Oh gosh, yeah. I haven't delved too much into it, but it's more like the lyrics are very repetitive, and it goes into, like you were saying, like rhythmic. And funnily enough, like this EDM version, like the original version has definitely got like a loop to it. Like the music often goes through the same loops. The lyrics, like, it's like they use the same things over and over and over again. And like the song itself. This version in particular, I think you said it like accentuates the whole feel of it, and the original is very whimsy and playful. It's just like Titania is, and it's just like fairies are. But like actually in the context of Stormblood, and not Stormblood, in the context of Shadowbringers, and in the context of a lot of folklore, fae and fairies are pretty terrifying because like they can trick you to death basically. Like it's like, you know, you got these cute tiny little fairy wings and it's like, oh yeah, really cute, I'm gonna play trick on you dead kind of thing. Like
right. And traditionally, like they, you know, there's a tradition where, you know, you shouldn't accept gifts from them because they you know, because they seem happy, playful, whatever, until you're suddenly like in a serious amount of danger.
Yeah.
And you don't even realize it.
Yeah, and it's very cloying and very like overwhelming, especially like that area, Ilmeg. Like there's something overly bright and overly like cheery about it that just puts me on edge a little bit.
Especially when you walk across those like human-sized bushes.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, oh, something's wrong here.
Yeah. But yeah, this version in particular, like the rhythmic is really good with the lyrics, and like a lot of the lyrics are like not in this version. So like I think it's only really the fa la 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 bits that are there, like the those sections. Because it's just a lot of the instrumentation is a lot more obvious in this version, and I think like one thing about the looping lyrics and the looping rhythm of the original is like it's a slow descent into madness, because Titania she is going through that same descent into madness, or they have gone into this slow descent into madness in this version and the original version as well. And it's like this one changes up the instrumentation every time you reach the chorus sections. Every time there's like cartoon noises in the middle of it, there's like whooshes and sweeps and everything like that. Like it uses even for EDM, it uses like very unusual, unconventional noises. It feels like a real, like a farcical theatre play kind of thing playing out, but just in an electric music kind of way.
And I think it kind of accentuates, like, oftentimes that sort of descent is kind of done in loops or cycles, and I think that kind of emphasizes that as well. Because you're right, they don't use all the lyrics. You know, there's kind of select ones, and there's a little bit of repetition.
Right, yeah, and like the guitar is a lot more obvious. I don't think there's any guitar in the original version, but this one, as I hear the like guitar bits in this version, I feel like one of the Fae are just sitting there and watching me slowly plucking at that guitar as I'm like wiping to the mechanics again, because no one's listening to how you do this, boss. Like, so
a little help here? No, okay.
Yeah, someone's laughing at me as I like fall flat on my face again. It's fine. I'm used to that.
That is the feeling of this song. Yes.
Is it Puck?
Is it
Puck laughing at you?
It's always Puck.
It's Puck. It's always Puck.
Yeah, I mean, you guys covered most of what I was going to say about it.
We gotta let Zach go first next time.
But no, it's fine. Don't let me go first. But I was going to say, like, I think that, you know, it almost feels like this song filtered through, like, if I was going into a candy store, what it would sound like. And like maybe I had done like a little bit of LSD, just a little bit,
maybe.
You know, just a tiny bit. But you know, and I'm going to be honest, like I don't really like EDM music, but in this case, like the fact that it's like a little bit annoying to me actually accentuates, and you guys said this a lot, it accentuates exactly what the song is supposed to do. Like Titania and like the fairies, instead of being like terrifying, they're just like really annoying in Shadowbringers. Even more so than the Moogles in Heavensward, I promise. They're very annoying. And it's like the fact that this song annoyed me a little bit. It annoys me. I think it's like it's like a softer version of annoyance when I'm listening to it during the boss theme, except for I'm more annoyed by people who listen to directions during that fight. But I think it ends up working for it. Like I think both this and the previous song that you picked, Hilary, both like kind of in some ways as arrangements distill their songs down to like their most basic essence. But I don't mean that in a negative way or pejorative way. I just mean like it is like pressing forward with whatever it is that it's doing. And in this case, I think it is like meant to be like vaguely frustrating. So there you go.
I love that. I had something kind of similar in my notes where I had this kind of suggestion in the back of my head. But like, yeah, like Titania and, you know, the fairies, there is kind of like this twinge of annoyance there. And I think this EDM version kind of distills that to its logical conclusion, which is EDM, I guess.
Yes.
The music of the fairies, EDM.
Yeah, I like it. Well, now I'm the one that's mostly out of comments. I basically cannot get the song out of my head now because we just picked up I mean, months later than planned, but the Scions and Sinners arrangement album. And there are 3 versions of this song on there. So between listening to the Pulse version for this and the 3 versions of the song on there, I'm basically going to sleep and waking up with the la la la's in my head.
Oh no. See, that too sounds like a fairy curse of some kind.
It kind of does, actually. I hadn't thought about it like that.
It's an earworm.
What angel wakes Mike Salbato? It's this one.
Oh Lord, did we just find the title for the episode? I don't think that would work for people, but
Oh my goodness.
I have an answer to that question, actually, but I'll tell you during the break.
You're going to find that song to be your alarm now, by the way.
Oh no.
No, I won't do that to you.
Speaking of angels waking people and poor transition.
Wow.
That's the highest compliment.
I'm actually not sure what you're referring to, but no matter what, it's not appropriate.
I got nothing. Alana had a perfect transition before, and I'm like, how do I transition to Tanya to...
So that's the second time you've thrown one of my transitions out the window. Thanks, Mike.
Wait, did you give me one just now?
Earlier? Well, you just
or
said.
Earlier, yes.
We
but
gave
not
you...
right now.
Oh, okay, fine.
Fine, you do it. You use transition what angel wakes me to Dragonsong.
Just go with that.
All right. We just finished talking about fairies. Now we're moving on to dragons. There you go.
Yeah. All right. Sure.
Speaking of
there you
folklore.
go. Here's another creature.
It came through eventually. Thank you, Zach. Anyway, so our next block here is going to start with a song from Zach, who has
Dragonsong from Heavensward.
Yep. Okay. I don't know. I guess I expected more than 3 words. Okay, so yes. So you have Dragonsong from Heavensward, and after that, I have Nightbloom from Stormblood. That's how we're going to do it. 3-word introductions.
I'm excited to talk about both of them because there's a lot going on.
Oh, there's a lot going on.
Oh, yeah.
All right, let's go listen to Dragonsong and Nightbloom.
Children of the land, do you hear echoes of truths that once rang clear? 2 souls intertwined, one true love they did find, bringing land and heavens near. But flames that burned full bright soon fell dark. Memories dimmed by shadowed hearts. In the waxing gloom did wane the lover's moon, watching as their worlds drift apart. One soul's cry, a passion welling sacrifice, a final plea to her kin. Yet this bond of hope by treachery was broke, scattering her words to the wind. Swelling over long seas of blood are a song, and and death an afterthought to those who fight for naught. Alone, lying children of the land and service. Why must you turn to empty bliss? Tell me why break trust? Why turn the past to dust? Seeking solace in the abyss. Tell me why create a circle none can break? Why must you let go the life you were bestowed? This I
All right, so I chose Dragonsong, which is I guess to avoid spoilers, the 3.3 trial theme in Heavensward. And I think it's like one of maybe the most obvious picks from this entire game, which I'm very good for obvious picks. And it gets to like sort of the sorts of things that I like in music in general. And I love like sort of the way that it opens with like sort of a soft piano, and then it's so vocally driven, maybe even more than any other song in this game, maybe even more than like something like Answers or To the Edge we'll talk about later. I feel like it feels like a piece of musical theater almost, in the way that it is so much a piece of storytelling as a piece of music. Because like the thing that the singer, I don't know the name of the singers, talking about is sort of like two stories at the same time, both like the stories between like a human and a dragon, but also like this conflict between humans and dragons in general. And I think that the way that the story builds and the way that the music builds with it is really emotionally affecting, especially because it comes at the end of all these things that you've seen through Heavensward, and all the pain and all the suffering that you've seen that people have gone through, and also like sort of the tragedy of the fight itself. Like you're fighting a creature that you understand at that point. And I think that the vocals driving it and like it being almost like this story driven thing makes it really interesting. And I like in particular like the way that it focuses on the music and it keeps adding instrumentation in. And it's like tragic and like it moves like towards almost like, and there's occasion like these like beats of like a French, there's like these moments of like French horn coming in that are almost like dramatic in like an almost militant way. But the thing I like most about the song is the way it resolves in like quiet and sadness, the way that the story of Heavensward does in some ways. And so I think that really if you're listening to this song, both from like an instrumental perspective and the way it uses strings and the way it uses piano and the way that it ultimately uses like French horns and those things, and then it resolves into just like the voice and like very light piano and strings, and the voice being the only thing that carries it, and that sort of like functioning alone gets to like the emotions of this moment, I think, really effectively.
I think so. It's of all the main themes and vocal themes in 14, I think it's still the one that most encapsulates, like, not all of the story, but like the backbone of the story throughout all of Heavensward is in this song, which I know I've talked about it before somewhere. I think it was when I think Peter brought the Heavensward
He did.
theme several episodes ago, and I talked about this song as an aside.
Right, but we kept going through the main theme and we're like, oh wait, this part of the story is here, and this one, and this one, and this one.
Well, it's in this. Like the lyrics in Dragonsong are interesting because, you know, the song was released, even though I don't remember the first time it plays in the game. I know it plays in that final battle, but, you know, the song was available before that. And I always thought it was interesting that once you understand the story, the lyrics take on a meaning. Because when you don't know yet, it's like, well, it's interesting and it's evocative. And I'm like, I'm not sure what all of this means. But then you find out later that like the base of all of the story and the history behind what happens in Heavensward is all there in the lyrics.
Yeah, this song is a cool little frame. It's kind of like the beginning of a movie or the beginning of a story where someone sits down and is like, let me sing you this song. It's going to be a story about this.
Yes.
And that's sort of like the frame. And then you get all the details when you actually play.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like that. And this is Susan, right? Susan Calloway?
This is Susan Calloway.
It is, yeah.
Zach.
Oh my gosh. Who, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Uematsu heard her kind of before 14 started, or someone did and kind of decided like that's the voice we want to start out 14 with.
Don't put me on the spot. I don't know.
Okay.
That sounds familiar. I don't want to say yes, that's what happened, but I know, yeah.
That's the legend.
That sounds familiar. And one more thing I will say, even though I took a little dig at Zach and I already feel bad about it. I should say, like, you're making a joke about like, hey, I'm the master of obvious picks and all that. I almost said we shouldn't bring Dragonsong on because I was certain that we had it on the show before now, and we haven't.
That's crazy.
I checked. I promise.
Yeah, I know. Like it does seem like an obvious pick, but at the same time, we haven't had it on yet.
No
so
one picked it.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it should be here for sure.
It absolutely should. This is the right time for it.
Yeah, definitely. So to kind of jump in, yeah, I think that you don't actually hear it in game before that 3.3 fight. The only place I think I remember you hearing it is like the intro movie. That's when you're like sitting on way back when you could have like the title screen on the expansion, like that it played before that. Because I remember leaving it idle and having like Dragonsong playing over and over and over again, and I was listening to it like years and years ago. But like, I think I'm going to dance around spoilers a little bit. But the fact that it plays at the beginning, because the fight that you do, it's like 3 different songs, and I think this is the only one other than Binding Coil which uses Answers that actually uses the main theme straight up, like, because you've got like the final boss of like the worm's tail in Stormblood, and then you've got Who Brings Shadow for Shadowbringers, which uses part of Shadowbringers' main theme. But this just straight up uses it, like the whole song for the very first phase. And it's interesting because like I was making a lot of comparisons, and a lot of like 14 is a lot about memory and history and remembering it. And a lot of this song is like, you know, there are lines like, "Children of the Land, why did you like why did they forget this? Like, why did humanity wipe out this? Why did they start this war? Why did they wipe out this era of history?" And Ishikawa in particular, like, again, dancing around spoilers a little bit, but I guess I am spoiling it slightly, like, why are they living in ignorant bliss? Like, empty bliss is a word that they use in the song. Like, why are they living in like pretend happiness? Like, they're trying to pretend that everything's normal. And like, there's another line in there, "Seeking solace in abyss." Like, you're just trying to find like this kind of happiness in like eradicating history. And I think this song, I don't know the perspective of what it's being sung from, but like once you listen to it in context and you know everything and you hear it in that moment in 3.3, when you queue up and when you go in, because if you queue up straight after getting this, like you get the quest to do the final steps of faith, this is what's playing as you're waiting.
I had to listen to it for 25 minutes, I remember.
Yeah.
Had to.
The extended version.
Yeah, the DPS queue. But like, yeah, you're listening to it and you're now like that sense of history is coming into play more and more and more. And then you get into the fight and you realize this creature that you're fighting, that you now fully understand the perspective of, and you want to help because they're also your friend. It's like, if the emotion in this song is what they're feeling, or like a percentage of what they're feeling, it's them crying out for help, right? It's a gorgeous ballad where they're just, this is everything that I've been feeling over hundreds of years, and distilled into this like 1 5-minute piece. And you're standing there and it's like, you're fighting this dragon, and it's like, this is how you feel in this moment. And it's like they're crying for help, and this fight is you taking in all this emotion, and you're potentially going to have to kill a friend. You're going to end all of this hate and end this war finally that's been going on for years and years and years. But like, yeah, it's just this culmination, and even as it like builds up the song, it's like, that's just the peak of it. The peak of it is like every single thing that they, like a nation of people, the dragons, the Dragonsong War, all of it, like Isael as well is captured in this song really beautifully. Like, the lovers in this song are Isael and Freysvelga, so like it's just the backbone of Heavensward all coming together in this one creature. This one thing feels all of this rage and this anger, and it's just trying to it's overwhelmed by it. And that is exactly what the trial is. Like, you're just trying to save someone who is overwhelmed by this rage and this hate, and it's sad and it's beautiful, and I love this song so much, and I love this fight so much as well. So I tried to dance around it, but yeah.
One comment, because Zach, you specifically linked us to the Distant Worlds version, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
And I think that was a good and interesting choice, because I feel like in that version there's a lot of care, like you explained earlier, into adding all of those layers. And it's funny because the one that I noticed, actually, I think it's one of the last layers that sort of gets added before the song resolves kind of into that hint of sadness, is a chorus. There's a small chorus under Susan near the end, and that's when it kind of really hit me, like, wow, this is built up to a lot. But I think it's a good version that kind of mirrors the story, and it's adding all of those layers, and it gives you a little bit of a moment to have that sink in. There's just a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I like the choral element of it, because it makes it, it almost makes it feel like, I mean, in some ways it's like a sacred battle between these two people, and it makes it feel like people are joining in that moment. And I think, like, again, like trying to avoid spoilers, but like getting into like sort of the nature of like who's experiencing this pain, and then like who understands this pain later. And then like the reaction of the people of Ishgard to it, like some of them sort of like joining into it, and also like the reaction of other people is maybe indicative of the way people react to politics in real life. I think it's fascinating, but yeah, I love the choral element of this too.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this version is just a little bit slower paced than what you hear in the actual game. Not significantly, but just a tiny bit, which I think kind of adds to the like, let me tell you a story kind of feeling to it.
Yeah, sort of that traditional ballad element of it. Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
Yeah, which is quite neat when you think that Heavensward ends with someone closing a book called Heavensward, right?
And that's the way it's kind of going throughout the course of Heavensward too. It's like it's a story that's being told to you, like so like the weight of history.
Yeah.
You feel it's one of the things that makes me like Heavensward more than the rest of them is that I feel like it feels like more personal history to me. Whereas, and I love Shadowbringers, but Shadowbringers feels like more like distant history and a little more, fantastical. Whereas this feels like something real that people are experiencing constantly for 1,000 years. So it's one of the reasons why that always hits me a little harder.
Well, here's a question then that I wish I had asked this before, but let's just figure it out on the air. Which song will people be listening to then? Because my thought was to put the original version in here, but should we?
I like the original version. I mean, I'm cool with that. You can link the Distant Worlds version too, though.
Yeah. All right. So what you people just heard was the original version, but we will link the Distant Worlds version in the show notes as well, so you can compare the two.
They're pretty similar, so
yeah.
I think I covered some of the major differences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So this pairing, by the way, of songs in this block was the first pairing I came up with when putting the track list together, because they're both basically songs that lead into a climactic battle. Very different emotions behind them, but so Nightbloom, that was smooth, wasn't it? So Nightbloom, it doesn't play in the battle, right? I don't think it does. It's just before.
I'm pretty sure it plays during the first phase.
It's the
very
first
beginning.
phase, yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
It's the same as Dragonsong. Like, it plays while you're waiting for a cue, but also plays during the first
That's
phase.
true. Look, I haven't done that fight in like 8 hours.
Right. Oh,
It was also the first phase of the X version. Yes.
Yes, it
correct,
was.
Mike.
Yes, it was. All right. But the first time you hear it is before. It's when you unlock the fight and you're standing there and you need to queue up for it. And that's how I remember it. Actually, it's actually true of 3 songs we have today. But when I unlocked it, I remember standing there I was not waiting for a DPS queue for 25 minutes, but I did actually wait a while before queuing up because I wanted to sit and listen to this for a little while.
You wanted to G-pose, be honest.
Come on.
I wanted to G-pose while listening to this song. Yes.
Yeah.
I do have screenshots from this room before the fight. Yes. So you're not wrong. I'm also going to dance around spoilers here, but everything that leads up to this song, because is this 4.3, 4.4? I can't remember.
4.3.
Okay.
It's 4.3. We've got 3.3.
Of course, it's a
today.
0.3. Yeah. There's a method to their madness, isn't there?
There is indeed.
The stuff that leads up to this fight, which, I was really hoping it wasn't going to go the way it did, just for the sake of my heart, but it did. It's such a heavy moment, what leads up to this, and it's kind of heartbreaking. And also I was a little angry about it because I didn't really like that they were doing what they did with this character at the time. I don't know that I'm not still a little unhappy about it, but at the same time, if the idea was to make you feel something, it worked. So this is Alana mentioned something about this, about how some other main themes are reused or used in different ways throughout, and that's what Nightbloom is, because it's one of many songs based on Revolutions, which is Stormblood's main theme.
Yeah, we talked about it with the Tempest.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the fight after.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but it's so very different from Revolution. Just the way the instruments used and just the emotional impact of this song, and I think it might come through, and obviously Hilary's the one that can tell us this, if that for me I think that comes through whether you know what's going on in the story or not.
Let's find out.
Musically, she will say if I'm just making this up, because it's hard for me not to include that. I know what's happening when this plays and I know how it makes me feel, so I can't remove myself from that or remove the events from the song.
I mean, personally, sort of listening to it, because even though I also did this fight yesterday, I kind of forgot the exact context of it. But I think it does, because it has like 3 different like it blends that Stormblood main theme also with a little bit of like the Garlean main theme, which I think is totally appropriate to who this character is, and sort of what like the sort of the tracking what this fight does. Again, not trying to give too much away here, but like it starts with like this like timpani roll and like has like these like really intense horns, but it also has like these urgent strings happening underneath it. And like, and there's also like this dramatic piano. So like, there's like these 3 different things, and like none of them resolve at the same time.
Nope.
Like all 3 of those like sort of like different tracks resolve in different ways at different moments at different times. And given what the first phase of this fight is and who this character is and sort of like the volume, and I think that you find this out with later elements of the fight, like the way that this character is struggling, even though what you see in this moment and it feels like pure unadulterated rage, you get to see sort of the different elements that lead to the rage. I hadn't done this fight forever until yesterday. I was so glad we did it yesterday, because it is such a heartbreaking fight that might not be matched in the game in terms of like the way that it accomplishes storytelling through mechanics. And like when the phases change, like the song becomes sadder and goes to like different songs. But I do think that like it's like this moment of like feeling triumph, but also like because all the different tracks are doing different things, you can feel the uncertainty of it through that.
Right. Like the sense that I got from someone who's not quite there in the game yet. I didn't know going in this was kind of the first phase, so I knew it wasn't exactly the complete story of the fight. But what I got from it is definitely that lack of resolution. It felt like there was some kind of conflict going on. But also, it actually sounds a little bit like a march, a little bit like this character's resolve to do something. They kind of made a decision. But that there's like a big, I think because of that lack of resolution, I sort of got like a big, and just the volume and just the driving nature of the song, kind of a little bit of like, there was a little bit of a hint of, well, more than a hint of like desperation to what's going on. And I don't know if that's like something that the player's meant to be feeling or the character's meant to be feeling, or maybe both.
It's both.
It's both. It's
definitely
absolutely both.
But yeah, that's what I got just from the music side.
You nailed it.
I know you have more notes, but I'm going to say like this. I know sometimes you worry about like being behind people in 14, but it gives you a perspective on some of this stuff that other people might not have, and that's twice today. I'm really glad. I'm really glad you are where you are, because I think about this stuff all the time. Everything I said about this track and some other tracks, I'm like, I think it has this emotion. I think it comes through just in the music, and it's not just me like projecting how I felt or because of what's happening on screen or in the game. But I can never say for sure. I can't say for sure if it really is also in the music on its own, and you've confirmed that. So once again, these people that make this music for this game are brilliant. I mean, it's true.
Yes,
like,
we're empirically,
and so is Hilary. Let's be honest.
I mean, yes.
We're empirically testing that today,
Yes.
I guess. Does this convey the right emotion? Okay.
And
yes,
it really
Stormblood.
does. I mean, like some of the stuff you've said about this too, like the desperation, all these other like emotions, and like that is exactly it. And you have not seen any of that in the game yet.
No, I have not.
So there's something to that. Or you're just so, maybe it even isn't, and you're just so insightful. It can be both.
It's definitely both.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah. Technically, one thing I thought was really neat, and I wish I'd written down a time, but unfortunately I didn't. There's actually a moment in Nightbloom that kind of sounds like the Zelda Link to the Past dungeon theme. There's a little bit of a do-do-do-do-do.
Oh shoot, which dungeon?
I think early Eastern Palace.
Oh.
Kind of, but it's like sped up and the volume's kind of cranked up, but it reminded me of it a little bit.
I know what bit you mean.
Yeah.
Is it my turn now to say that, wow, everyone's taken everything I've written down?
Yes.
Yeah, well, the only thing really I want to add on is, like, Hilary's used the word desperation. I think that's a really good word to pick out. But, like, also, again, dancing around spoilers a little bit, like, there's one moment where, like, a piano and a harp come in this song. And it feels really, like, a slightly unexpected, not given the context of the fight again, and given, like, the situation that's come about and why this person is doing this thing and is this thing. It's like... This gives it like that added like kind of, what's the word I want to use here? I don't want to use the word what it actually is. It's like the piano like adds a little bit of a lightness to it and a little bit of not fantasy but kind of like magic, I guess, but like not in the sense of good magic. Like this is not good. But there's also like melancholy as well, and I think actually like even though the three different phases of the fight, and particularly like lunacy, like picks up on the real trauma of the character, and then like Wayward Daughter is like the absolute like anguish of the character coming out. But like this theme actually builds up to all of that perfectly, and that's kind of what Zach was saying earlier anyway. But like there's that melancholy with the piano, there's a triumphantness about it, which Zach was talking about, because this is someone who is going to achieve what she wants at the cost of anything. And it's like she, not only that, like it takes the imperial theme, it's like a mix of Alamiga, it's the Alamigan anthem that plays when the Garleans have taken over Alamigo. So it's not only that, but it's like amplified that theme to like tenfold, because, you know, this is someone who wants to crush the world under her heel, basically, because all it has done has spit her back out over and over again. And it's just rage, but also bitterness. Like it's pure hatred and anger in its like purest form. But it's just, it really, really, really sets up the rest of the fight perfectly.
It's interesting that you mentioned the piano, because like in my notes I'm seeing there that at one point there were some descending piano runs that I said sounded ethereal, and I think I like in my mind I was going, what is the piano doing here? I really want to like see what in the game happened to kind of like add that emotional tinge to it.
You will. Don't worry. I can't say the word.
The word?
There's a specific word.
Well, yeah, I just don't want to spoil it for you, basically. I think it's a really important moment. I knew going in what it was, but I think it's very cool.
All right. We have one block left.
Woo.
I don't know that these last two go together quite as well as some other ones, but I also knew that the last song had to be the last song.
I feel like they actually go together perfectly, honestly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go with it.
Really?
So our last song is last song. Our last block is pure Shadowbringers. So Zach has our first one here. What do you have?
I am giving you another obvious pick. I am choosing To the Edge, which plays during the 5.3 trial.
I mean, I don't care again that it's obvious, because if you hadn't picked it, I was going to.
Yeah.
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 It needed to be here.
It had to be here. Absolutely. For so many reasons. And then after that, Alana has our final song.
I do. I have the credits piece from Shadowbringers. It's Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
And Tomorrow.
Beautiful.
Yes.
All right. So let's go listen to the Edge and Tomorrow and Tomorrow.
weeps the storm, her tears on her skin. The days of the years gone are soul soaked in sin. These memories echo with the weight of tomorrow. Who falls? Who falls? Who falls? Stand tall, my friend. May all of the dark lost inside you find light again. In time, tumbling, turning, we seek commands, eternal winds to the land descend. Our journey will never From those who've fallen to those who rise, a prayer to keep us ever by your side, an undying promise that we just might carry on in a song. Pray don't forget us, your bygone kin, with one world's end as a new begin. And should our souls scatter unto the wind, still we shall live on. Stand tall, my friend. May all of the dark deep inside you find light again. This time, tumbling, turning, we make amends. Eternal winds from the land ascend. Here to lift us, then we won't end.
So I brought To the Edge, which, I said earlier is an obvious pick, and it is, but there's a reason it's an obvious pick, because it's amazing. To the Edge is amazing for so many reasons that we didn't even know when it came out. So I'm going to start by talking about that. Probably a lot of people know who are listening to this that Soken, the composer of most of Final Fantasy XIV's music, was through a lot of the patch content and a lot of the pandemic, was being treated for cancer. And so apparently he wrote this song, the music for this song, while he was actually receiving chemotherapy. like literally while he was sitting there receiving it. Which, given the context of the song, I think is amazing. The other thing I think is amazing about this is does anybody here know who Soken's favorite band is, apparently?
I do, but I will not say anything.
It's System of a Down.
No, I was wrong.
Oh my god. Okay,
right.
that makes this song make so much more sense.
I know, right?
That's amazing.
It's like 70s hairband filtered through a little grunge, filtered through tragic hopefulness, which sounds like literally my exact kind of music. And it is. So I think that if you're just thinking about the lyrics, and apparently Soken actually didn't write the lyrics. It was whoever the guy who sung the song was, Jason something.
No, the lyrics were written by Koji Fox and the scenario writer for Shadowbringers, but I'm sure Jason Miller probably had some input because there is some Shadowbringers in there as well, yeah.
Okay, fair enough. But you know, like the fact that, you know, Soken wasn't the one to directly write them, but like I feel like if you look at those lyrics and think about what those lyrics are talking about, like it's sort of that mix of feeling like you are in a position where you don't have any other options, but like you still find it actually says the word hope multiple times, right? I think it's like a remarkably prescient about like his particular situation and his particular meaning, but it is, of course, those of you who have played Shadowbringers, like very relevant to the situation that you find yourself in with a person you're fighting and that 5.3 trial, and like sort of the situation that them and their people have sort of gone through, and like it's like the end of the line for them. Like, and the fact that they're finding hope in that moment, like it gets back to like all those narratives that I always really appreciate, like finding a through line like forward to the fact that like this group of people failed and are going to fail. I think is remarkable. I have a lot of notes about the music, but I will leave those till the end if other people don't talk about them. But I just think like sort of the story of this song, like when I listen to it now, given what I know about Soken's situation, it makes it so remarkably more moving than it was, and it was already very moving to me.
I mean, you can talk about the music as well.
I'll talk about it later. You guys go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Boy. Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned just the background of Soken and his situation right off the bat, because I think that it changes the way you see this song. There's no way around it.
Right.
100%. You can't listen to it exactly the same way knowing that.
Yeah. I mean, even his team, most of his team didn't know it.
Right.
They were like, wait, you were doing what? We thought you were just working from home. It's like, nope. I'm like, how did you do this? Why did you do this? Yeah.
Because he has to do it because he loves it.
But that's kind of the isolation that goes along with that.
Mm-hmm.
Figurative and literal, probably. Let's see. As usual, I've heard a lot from the Shadowbringers soundtrack, but don't know the context yet. But that did not stop me from enjoying this song a lot, musically, lyrically, all of it. And I'm still kind of just impressed and wondering how. I mean, we mentioned all these kind of different filters and elements for this song, and I'm still kind of just really kind of bemused and impressed that they're able to combine these kind of somber but finding hope in a bleak moment kind of lyrics with a little bit of funky bass and metal vocals and just having all of it work together. It's just really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. Like, again, I've heard this a lot before I did the fight, and I've very, very, very recently done the fight, so I sort of like understood a lot of the context. But yeah, this song it's interesting because like it is really hopeful, but it's hopeful in a way that's really desperate and really like clinging on with your fingernails, kind of desperate, because like a lot of the song it's like two voices throughout, and they're just trying to hold on to the end. And one of the motifs, like again, we talked about Full Fathom 5 earlier. To the Edge is one of the many songs in Shadowbringers that uses that Full Fathom 5 Neath Dark Waters Mortal Instruments motif right up into the very beginning of the song, which starts off with a metronome, like a clock ticking, like finger snapping. And it's like this is somebody singing this song, and they're singing it in the context of like reliving the final days, reliving the end over and over again. Like time is ticking and the end is coming again. They're going to the edge. And I think like the song itself really emphasizes like, this is my last chance to do this. Like everything is flashing before this person's eyes, like their life, as it does, you know, it's a cliche to say your life flashes before your eyes when you're going to die, but like genuinely, like in times where I've been at my lowest, even without, like, I've never been in a life-threatening situation, but like anyone at their lowest point will probably go over their entire life and go like, here we go, this is what's happened, this is what I'm doing, things like that. And I think this song is like an exercise in that to a degree. And I think as well, there are lyrics in there, and Zach, you mentioned Hope. The lyrics are specifically from the title theme, Fourfold Knowing, which is the song that plays every time you boot up Shadowbringers currently. If you're listening to this when Endwalker is out, that's not relevant anymore. But if you listen to the words in Fourfold Knowing, the specific lines it pulls are riding home, finding hope, don't lose hope. And in the middle of Fourfold Knowing, it sounds way more powerful. It's very much like a, don't lose hope. We won't lose hope. We're going to find hope. We're going to do it. Here, it's sung in a totally different key. It's a lot slower. It's a lot more steady. And it's like those memories are starting to fade away. Like rather than like grasping them and holding on to them, this is like a hope that's kind of slipping away. It's very desperate. Like this person singing this song or the thing it's about. It's really hard to talk about without saying the words. But like,
I mean, I think that to talk about it musically for a second there, I'm not trying to cut you off, but I think that like the way that like the voice, like all the voices, even like the choral voices, like feel slightly distorted.
Yes.
And I've used distortion throughout all of it, but like that notion, like the way that it feels like the male singer, Jason, what's the name again?
Jason Miller.
Jason Miller. Like the way that it feels like it's almost like coming through like a telephone. But like a slightly distorted one, like I think gets to that, like that element of like distance and like the way that it's just like barely still there.
Yeah, I agree. That's good. It's a good observation.
Use of that technique.
Definitely. And like there are some parts of this song that are really overwhelming. Like there's a counter melody when Jason starts singing about monochrome melodies, and it just like really hits you. Like there are moments where like it's slipping away and then it pulls back, and it's like this like push and pull between like hope and also like, desperation. But this song is just like, it's just, again, like a lot of the songs we've picked today, it's like a lot of pain and a lot of like, this is the last stand, we've got to do this. But yeah, to the Edge is an incredible song even without any context. But it's I just love the fight as well so much. Like, I've only done it once, but it's so good.
I don't get to say this time that you all took my notes because somehow I didn't write down any notes for this. I thought it'd be a good idea for some reason to wing it on this one. I like what you said. I like the comparison you drew between how the music and the lyrics are used in the intro versus how they're used here, because that really, really works with how the story plays out. Because when you're starting Shadowbringers early on, that is your feeling like, okay, we got to go do this. We got to go, to really overly distill it, we got to go beat the bad guys. But the more you progress, the more you learn about that, it definitely turns into more of a conflicted, like, well, I kind of don't want to do this, but we kind of have to do this. And I think that's a really interesting transition that also reflected in the music. And what you said too about the kind of push and pull, since Zach and I have been spending hours every week doing this fight for the last month and a half, and I don't get tired of this song.
No, someone on the chat said like, "Oh, I have to turn this off." I'm like, "Nope, never."
Nope. Well, they were listening to something else. I'm like, huh, weird.
Whoa.
Might have been a former staff member here.
But
whoa,
I don't know. I know they've talked about how their development process, and I'm not sure where everything. I think the music comes in later, but it is interesting that the way you described the song and the feeling of that push and pull, like, hey, I forgot exactly how you said it, but you know what I mean. How that also plays into the fight itself, because there is a lot of back and forth. Like, okay, like I think I have the edge up, and then your opponent feels that too, and it's like, well, you're trying to figure out where it's going to go, because it's like you said, you mentioned desperate a few times, and that is how that fight feels. It's pretty intense.
Listening to you all, it's kind of neat how this song finds multiple ways of kind of musically conceptualizing an edge. Because you have that sense of distance, which is something that you do associate with an edge. It's far away from the middle, right? Mm-hmm. So that sort of distortion is kind of how it embodies that. But also that kind of like push and pull, it's almost like you're sort of on the edge between that feeling you had at the beginning of the game and it fading completely away. So you're on the push and pull in the music kind of like musically shows an edge that way as well as going between those extremes. That's really neat.
All right. Well, I'm spent. We're done, right?
We've got one more really good song.
Oh yeah, we have one more really good song. Right.
We do, yeah. Oh my god, Tomorrow and Tomorrow is a hard song to talk about. Again, like a lot of the other stuff we've picked. I should probably start by saying, oops, I managed to pick another Shakespeare reference here, so should probably give a little bit of context for that. So there is a famous soliloquy at the end of Macbeth called Tomorrow, or it's famously called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, so specifically 3. And it's after Macbeth's wife dies, and he is kind of lamenting how his life is meaningless now because he's lost her, and everything that just happens. Someone will elaborate on this better because like I'm just kind of mumbling through it, but like it's essentially everything is a performance now, and that death is really just the final act of a performance. Now Tomorrow and Tomorrow, this version, is not that. It is the complete opposite and almost an answer to that, which is interesting if you know or you understand who this song is about and who is probably singing it. So I don't want to go into that necessarily, because I mean it's probably important. Like it's between it's between your character and another character, and it's sung from both perspectives. But yeah, there are some really, really stunningly good moments in this song, and it's another personal favorite thing of mine in music is just anything that is just like last episode. I managed to pick a song that was both vocals and string and choir and string. This is exactly the same, and piano as well. We got piano in this one as well, which is good. But yeah, I think it's used multiple times throughout Shadowbringers. It's one of the main motifs again. So you've got it in the Crystarium theme, the day and the night one, and in Yulmore's day and night theme as well. So it's used in both areas. And it's also used in the very, very final boss theme. And I mean that as in like 5.0 final boss, the song Invincible. Part of the lyrics and the music are used in that song. And given who that character is that you fight, you know that who part of this song is about. So there are a few things that stand out to me about this song, and I'm going to let other people talk about it because I think I probably have too much to say, and a lot of it is way too personal, because I just see this song as a very like personal song to a Warrior of Light, or the Warrior of Light, or my Warrior of Light maybe. It's not about them, but I think it's them telling somebody you will still be remembered, basically. Like the end isn't death, and it's especially relevant when you know the final words of a character is remember that we once lived. And I think a lot of Shadowbringers and a lot of 14, as I alluded to earlier, is a lot of like carrying people's memories and remembering history and remembering things, and I think that's what a lot of Tomorrow and Tomorrow does.
One thing I think is worth mentioning this song is we have a change in vocalist. And I mean, I absolutely adore this. I think as much as any of the other vocal themes, you know, different person, but I think she conveys a lot of the same power that Susan does, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
It's definitely a very piercing soprano. I mean, it's like it's amazing on that front.
It is, yes, very hollow in a way. Like not hollow, but like there's something very like Susan's got like a real powerful voice, but there's something about the singer here,
Amanda.
Amanda, I think her name is. Yes,
Amanda's on the Scions and Sinner album all over the place, and I'm like, I wonder where else she's sung. Right here.
Yeah, that's her.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's something about her voice here that's very like, I don't want to say holy because I don't think there's like any religious like aspect to it, but the choirs kind of add to that.
I mean, I think there is something like almost like I think like holy in the way that it evokes history.
Yeah.
The adjective I was going to use is kind of pure. It's very clear.
It is pure.
Which works very well for the song, given that, like you said, the whole message behind it is kind of two characters kind of having a little bit of a dialogue and a little moment of like, out, brief candle. No, no, you will be remembered. You know, the eternal wind is going to be there and you'll live on somehow, kind of thing.
Exactly. It's like a double.
Yes,
it's a double reference there. Like we're gonna the eternal wind is the warrior of light or the warrior of darkness, trying to remember or remembering or carrying the message of these people. Yeah. But also, it's another Final Fantasy III reference, like Shadowbringers is like the whole thing. Yep. But yeah, like there's just. This carrying this eternal struggle is really what the Warrior of Light is doing at this point, and that's just them telling it to this person. And not only is this like the answer to Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow, but it's also the mirror to the Shadowbringers main theme, which is like you know, the whole build up of like the whole of the narrative of Shadowbringers, and this like you're the person bringing darkness or someone else is bringing light, and this is what's going to happen. So this is it saying like, no, this is me ending this wheel of mortality and like this idea that you're, you know, once you're dead kind of thing. There is always going to be a future for these people that this song is about, right? Like, and I think the one bit, and I'll stop in a minute and so other people can jump in, like the one bit that always stands out to me is when like the baritone choir come in and Amanda says, "Stand tall, my friend," and that's a line used frequently throughout Shadowbringers by different characters. And like standing tall is like you're telling somebody to like look up and feel a bit of hope, but also like just take in everything and just have a little bit, not pride necessarily, but like just believe for a second, like we will not forget you and we will make sure to remember you. So it's a sad and beautiful song, but it's also a little bit of hopeful as well. And I love one last thing, like I do love around like 340, the piano comes in again, it does my favorite thing where like the song like culminates into its like climax, and it's that release of emotion again. Like again in that moment she says like stand tall again, and that's just where everything like bursts out. So I love this piece. It's very hard for me to talk about in multiple different ways, which I've demonstrated. And
you sounded good to me.
Yes, it's incredible.
I'm sitting here looking at Zach's muted icon, and I'm like, I know Zach has something to say here.
I really appreciate the key change that they use here. Like the way that it moves between this like sharp, piercing, pure soprano and like the chord change to make it feel more like you're talking to another person, which gets back to that idea that Alana was talking about earlier. I mean, one of the things that I think, and I know that that many of us were on the previous Nier episode, and we talked about like the ways in which like Nier music contrasts a lot of times and like also like helps us understand characters in ways that they aren't obvious about. And I think that one of the things that 14 is interesting with is that it, and when I say it's more obvious, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that it more closely mirrors sort of like the sequencing of events, like we're talking about Dragonsong or To the Edge or whatever. Like it more closely matches with what we're seeing on screen. It's not maybe necessarily as subtle, but again, I think that it's brilliant in its own way. And so I think that the way that it goes from like that almost like sharp, pure soprano to like that more conversational chord progression gets to like the ways in which we have conversations with people throughout the course of Shadowbringers. It brings us to different understandings. And yeah, I can't say anything more than that without spoiling it. But I think that that's my only additional thing beyond what has already been said. And yeah, I love the Macbeth reference and how it's an answer to the nonsense that is that soliloquy as much as I love it.
I think that was a good place to end things then. Unless anyone has more, like please, if you have more to talk about, like let's talk about it. We've come this far.
I love Final Fantasy 14. If you haven't played it yet, you should go play it.
Absolutely.
You know, I know we've been, not to put Hilary on the spot, like I know we talk about not wanting to spoil things, partially for Hilary's sake, but also for everyone listening, because these are events that are like possibly, you know, dozens and dozens, if not more hours, depending on how you play, into the game. So like, I know not everyone has played this game, and let alone if you had, like, it takes a while to get to these points. And the story is so important to this game, we don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Right. And not to mention the fact that if you haven't picked it up yet, the amount that you know might influence your decision to play it or not. We really don't want that.
Yeah.
And also it offers a free trial up through
We
level
don't want to
60.
influence your decision.
Critically acclaimed.
Free trial.
I mean, free trial up to level 60 is very generous.
It is.
Critically acclaimed expansion, Heavensward,
Yep.
et cetera. Meme.
I am curious. I think someone, when we were playing last night, mentioned it, but I'm curious if they're going to expand that at some point to include Stormblood too, because that would make it even more.
I don't know. I mean, like, I will tell you, if anybody plays through up to the end of Heavensward and they don't subscribe, I don't want to be their friend. So
That's true.
Really
Zach
don't need to get
negativity
further than that.
Yeah, I don't need your Heavensward judgment.
No, you're right. If you're not convinced by then it's probably not for you. But yeah, it's a good game too. I enjoy it a lot.
Says the person who convinced most of the staff to play
Not
it.
most of the staff, just many people on staff to play.
Just almost everyone on this podcast.
Unfortunately, it wasn't you who convinced me to play originally, so I'm sorry.
No, but I'm gonna take partial credit along with the other people here for getting you to come back.
You can take partial credit for getting me to come back. Yes, correct. And that is really when I started to play. Correct.
So, all right. Wow. Well, this is an episode.
So
I knew we were going to have a lot to talk about.
Yep. 3 Shakespeare song titles later, and
and here we are. Yes. So hopefully everyone who's listened today gets a sense of why we adore this game and its soundtrack so very much. And well, soundtracks. I literally have a shelf just for CDs or Blu-rays of soundtracks for this game because there's so many albums now. And I'm actually still missing two. I'm missing 2. Yeah, just constantly amazing stuff. I'm not even ready for what music we're getting with Endwalker. But I'm looking forward to it.
Oh, I'm ready for the Final Fantasy IV references throughout the music. I've already heard like 1 maybe.
Yes.
So yeah.
Give it to me.
I mean, I think I'm kind of generally known as a proponent of 3's music, and I love the way they've used it in 14 so far, but 4, I'm really...
Oh, it's so good.
Playing 3 after 14?
Yay!
That made me like 3, like maybe twice as much as I would have otherwise.
Yeah, I'm very, very curious how deep they're going to go with the references to 4, besides the obvious stuff we've seen.
The lunar whale mount.
The lunar whale, the moon, there's all these things, so... And the music we've heard already, and the naming ways.
And the naming
I know they're called
way,
something else, but I'm going to call them naming ways.
No one's going to stop
The Loppets?
people from calling them naming ways. There's just no way.
Unfortunately, they won't let you change your name for free.
Aw.
Okay. Anyway, let's do our housekeeping outro stuff. Let's see. So coming up next in a few weeks, we have a long-awaited piano episode. I'm pretty sure we're not actually going to call it Piano Pals. If we do, if no one comes up with a better name than that, then I'll be surprised. So in 2 weeks, we'll have a piano-themed episode. After that, we're doing an episode right now called Press Start, which is going to be title screen music in RPGs. We have a lot of interest in this one, so I think that's going to be a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not going to go all the way to the end of the year, but we do have episodes planned through most of the year now. So after title screen, we're going to do a music on game concerts. So it'll all be live versions of songs at various events. And there's a lot to pick from. So I'm looking forward to that.
I'm definitely there for that one, given the amount of proportion of time I spend talking about remakes and what makes a good arrangement and stuff like that. So, yep.
Exactly.
I'm going to be there.
And how, a good transition to taking a song from a recorded to a live format. Now, we might change this lineup a little bit because we've also been talking about the soundtracks to the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters in here. And everyone that we've been talking to on staff has been so impressed by the soundtracks for 1 through 3.
Oh, yeah.
I'm thinking by the time all 6 are out somewhere in the fall, hopefully is the plan. We're probably going to do an episode of that in the middle of this, but we'll find out. We don't have a date for that, but if you haven't heard those Pixel Remaster soundtracks, I still don't think they're available, officially. I think you can get them on YouTube, but you can't buy them, or they're not on any Square services, but they need to be. I hope there's a collection or something planned, because there are some amazing arrangements in there. So that'll be an episode somewhere. We just don't know what date yet. But yeah, good stuff in the works. I'm looking forward to all of it. I hope everyone else is too. If you have feedback on this, if you have topic ideas, please feel free to email us at music@rpgfan.com. I don't know why I tell people about the track list, because if you're listening in a podcast app, it's there, but I'm telling you anyway. So on rpgfan.com, we have a post with this episode that has a track list, places you can stream, places you can buy, links to our reviews for any albums we've reviewed. So that'll be on the site post and also in your podcast show notes, along with a few links that we talked about earlier. Actually, one thing I didn't mention during the last couple songs there is that there's a lyric site that I stumbled across earlier this year. And it's an unofficial site, so it's, take what you will out of it. But I was looking at the lyrics to the Edge and Tomorrow on there. And it's a site that lets people put comments on lyrics. And it's, it's kind of theory, and it's not, none of it's official commentary on the lyrics, but it is I got some interesting insights out of it and some perspectives I hadn't considered. So I included those in the notes too, just because it's kind of interesting reading if you really want to dig into some of these songs. So then again, if you want to contact the show, that's music@rpgfan.com. If you want to contact me, the best way is also email at mike@rpgfan.com. Alana, what's the best way for people to reach you?
Twitter. So come follow me at Alana Hagues on there, or you can come to the RPG Fan Discord, and I am Alana there.
Okay. And Hilary.
The best way to reach me would be Discord as well, and I'm EPFire there.
And Zach.
The best way to reach me is probably email zachw@rpgfan.com, or you can find me on Discord at zachw.
All right. So along with Rhythm Encounter, I also have to mention that you should check out all of our other podcasts and shows. So we also have our general gaming show, Random Encounter, and then our also somewhat general, but also retro podcast, Retro Encounter. So Retro Encounter is a weekly show. Random Encounter is bi-weekly, like our show. But I definitely recommend all of them because I'm really proud of all our podcast people. They always put out such good stuff at a consistent pace. So definitely give them a listen. And then lastly, we have Phoenix Edge, which is our partner podcast. They're a YouTube based show, so it's video based, and they also always talk about current goings on with RPGs. So they also have some good insight. So check them out as well. If you did enjoy this show, make sure to subscribe or follow, and whatever it is you can do in your podcast app. Ratings, reviews, and subscriptions all help us very much. So if you feel so inclined, we would appreciate that. So that's about it, except for our bonus track, which I used to say I don't like claiming it for myself because I'm the host, but I think I've done it 2 or 3 times now, so I probably should stop. But all of you encouraged me to pick one. So
Yep, that's true.
It should be you. You've been playing this game way longer than the rest of us.
You said you wanted to do it, and you know more about Final Fantasy IV music than
thank you for
anybody else, I would say. So yeah.
We don't need to listen to it live, but I did send you guys a link just now. So what I wanted to close with was to keep up our theme of Stormblood and Shadowbringers is Parting Ways from Stormblood.
Ooh.
It's a really short song, and it's used in some very, very emotionally impactful scenes in Stormblood, but it's so, so beautiful.
I love it. It's one of my favorite songs from Stormblood. Yeah.
I thought it was also a good way of closing out the episode, even though we already had a song that closed out the episode.
Appropriate. I mean, the title, it's in the title. Appropriate closing song.
It is. But, we're an RPG podcast. So many RPGs have more than one ending. So here's our second ending song. So please enjoy Parting Ways, and we will be back in a couple of weeks. So thank you everyone for listening. Thank you so much, all 3 of you, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
Well, we'll see everyone later, and enjoy Parting Ways. Bye.
Bye. When the bass drops, Alana gets funky.